Let us continue with the lecture on special theory of relativity. Last time we have seen the basic postulate of special theory of relativity. Let's look into more how to do dynamics with this new restriction that nothing can move faster than the velocity of light. So in this lecture, we are going to do dynamics with the speed limit, that is the speed of light, and this is a part of course PH 4205 at IISER Calcutta. Now our goal is to do dynamics within the framework of special theory of relativity. After putting a limit of maximum possible speed, we have modified the Newtonian mechanics, and what is now it is called the special theory of relativity. Newton's first law of motion or Galilean principle of inertial frame get modified with this new constraint. The new Newton's first law or the special theory of relativity, we can say that there are some interesting frame in which in absence of external influence or force, a particle at rest will continue to remain at rest, and a particle moving at the constant speed will continue to move at the same speed. In addition, the speed of light is a maximum attainable speed in an inertial frame. Now Newton's second law would remain essentially same, that is in an inertial frame we have a rate of change of momentum is equal to external force. Now because of this new postulates or new formalism of special theory of relativity, we no longer call them inertial frame, we call them the Lorentz frame, because it was Lorentz who first formulated the transformation similar to Galilean transformation, keeping the speed of light being fixed. However, he could not come up with the special theory of relativity because Einstein physically put a postulate that the speed of light is a maximum limit. That is one of the critical input which could be inspired by the Maxwell's equation. So we have Newton's second law, that is a rate of change of momentum is equal to force. First, let me briefly remind you about the curves. A curves is a mapping from R or the real state or an interval, closed interval in an R, A to B, to space M. The space itself, for example, M could be Rn, a Euclidean n-dimensional space, or it could be more complex. As long as locally it can be mapped to Rn, we are happy, and we can do all the calculus necessary for that. Most of the purpose we can take it to be Rn, but keep in mind that it is only locally Rn, but at this stage it is not relevant. So we have a real line R, and then you have some space which I represent by something, and then you have this curve which is map this interval A to a starting point x0 and the end of interval to B. Those start and end point could be plus or minus infinity to accommodate the entire real line, and then that is mapped into this. So you have a parameter running from A to B, then it would be mapped along the curve. As you can see here, it would be uniquely mapped as a transformation. The parameter lambda belongs to real space, maps into space M by lambda M. So that is what we call a curve. Now what is important for us is a tangent vector, or sometimes we call it a velocity, because the curve represents the trajectory of particle, then the velocity would be tangent vector. The tangent vector is given by dx by d lambda, essentially differentiation of the curve by the parameter. So there are various problems when one encounters the general space. However, if one takes it to be Rn, there is no serious difficulty. Minkowski space is essentially Rn with the slightly messed up the distance between the points. So we don't really have to worry. But when we come to Riemann geometry, we will worry about the exact form of differentiation and so on. But that's currently it is not necessary. If a M is norm, for example, it could be Euclidean space, then the norm of the vector space is positive definite. If you have a Minkowski space, then norm of a vector could have a 0, positive or negative, depending on the light-like, space-like or time-like, what you call as a tangent vector. You can also calculate the norm of the tangent vector. Let's go ahead with our concept of curve. We have a velocity defined as a v is equal to dx by d lambda. Lambda is a parameter along the curve. Then we can normalize. If we have a length defined, we assume the length is defined. Otherwise, it is meaningless to consider define the physics. We assume that we can normalize the tangent vector. So we have another notation here which says xa dot is equal to dxa by d lambda. So this is a standard thing used in the physics. We often use in the classical mechanics, we use a differentiation with respect to time as t dot, but here the time is our parameter, but we could have an arbitrary parameter as we required, and then the dot is a differentiation by that parameter along the curve, and that we can normalize to 1. Now, if the tangent vector is already not normalized, we can always reparameterize. This is a simple mathematical idea that you reparameterize your curve such that your tangent vector is always unit norm. In the case of Minkowski space, this normalization possible only if the curve is not null. In the case of null, you cannot normalize the curve, so you have to retain whatever the parameter you are using. Now, once we define the velocity, we can also define the acceleration. Acceleration is essentially rate of change of velocity along the curve, that is given by dv by d lambda, where v is a dx by d lambda. So this way we have our acceleration defined. So one interesting result, I am sure you are all familiar with this. It's very trivial to show that for a normalized vector va dot va equal to 1, then the acceleration is always orthogonal to the velocity itself. So it's a general result. If you have a normalized tangent, then the double derivative is always orthogonal to the tangent itself. Now, once we have seen the basic rules, let's try to derive the equation of motion of the free particle. Now we know that the free particle would be moving along the straight line, but however, it is good to get into the details such that similar things we should be able to do. Let us say we can move from a point or an event A with the coordinate x1a, which is given as t1, x1, y1, z1, and to the second event with the coordinate x2a, which is given as t2, x2, y2, and z2, and that too in absence of force. That means we have a first particle here at x1a, and the second event is at b, and then to start with, let us assume that these two events are infinitesimally separated, or they are pretty close, and that is a space-time separation between them is simply written as ds square is equal to dt square minus dx square minus dy square and dz square. This is a Minkowskian way of measuring the space-time separation, and this is valid if the distance are very, very close to each other. Let us say that this distance are not necessarily be small, and then we want to have a trajectory of a force-free particle going from an event A to the event B. Now, the space-time event which we have is connected by a trajectory lambda A. Let's say that the space-time velocity or force velocity UA is given by UA as a dxa by d lambda or x dot a. If the particle is moving along the time-like curve, that is UA is positive, then we can always normalize. So we say that UA is dt square by d lambda square minus dx by d lambda square minus dy by d lambda square, one minus is missing here, minus dz by d lambda square is equal to 1. Now this is equivalent to saying that we are using the arc length itself as a parameter, that is our d lambda is equal to ds. So that is we have this from infinitesimal distance ds square. If that itself is used as a parameter, then this condition, the normalization, is naturally satisfied. One can substitute this back and check what happens using this constraint. All that turns out that the velocity is normalized if we take the arc length as your parameter. So that is what we are going to do unless explicitly said. Now we have time-like connected curve between the two events, and we can normalize the tangent vector if it is a time-like curve, and that is what we call the arc length parameter. If the particle is light-like or null, we cannot normalize, because this ds square is 0 or ua is 0, then we can't do a normalization. If the vector, tangent vector, is a space-like, then we are simply not interested, because it is does not have any causal connection with an observer, or these two events are not causally connected, so they are not important or interesting. Now let's go ahead and try to get the equation of motion. There are several ways of doing it. One of the straightforward way is to simply apply the Newton's laws of motion, that is rate of change of momentum is equal to force, and no force acting, that is 0, and then we can get our results. Because we will not use that, it is fairly unimportant at that stage. We want to learn something more interesting technique, and we use a Lagrangian equation of motion. Now it is important to notice that the time is also a degree of freedom, and that enters into your system as a dynamical quantity, and now you have a four-dimensional space-time, and that is where you have kinetic energy is given as a half t dot square minus x dot square minus y dot square minus z dot square. This minus sign comes because of the Minkowskian nature, so that would be keep coming. One have to get used to it. We are using the free particle, so that means we don't have any force acting. In the Lagrangian, we don't have any potential. So we have seen that the free particle Lagrangian is equal to kinetic energy itself, and in this case it is simply comes as a quadratic function in the generalized velocity or 4 velocity. Now we can cleanly see that for a time-like curve, Lagrangian itself is 1, or for a light-like curve, Lagrangian is 0. So this is where the difference between your classical mechanics Lagrangian and the special theory of relativity. One is t there does not evolve. Here t is also a degree of freedom. And second thing is trajectories for the time-like or massive particle is separated from the trajectory of light-like curve by the Lagrangian itself. If the Lagrangian is 1, then it is a time-like curve. If the Lagrangian itself is 0, then you have a light-like curve connecting between the point. Of course, we can solve this. We get x double dot is equal to 0 for a is equal to 0, 1, 2, and 3. And then that is a straight line. Both free particle and light have to propagate in the straight line in the inertial frame or in the Minkowskian space. Now we have seen that in general it can be applied to relativistic dynamics. We have already seen that it would lead to an equation given as a x double dot a plus gamma into x dot b into x dot c is equal to 0, or it is a geodesic equation of motion. But the details we would do as we go along when we learn more of a Riemann geometry. Let's have some remark on notation. This is not in, this should be in. Okay, in the earlier special relativity course, you might have used the notation for velocity ua is given as a spatial velocity and 1, and multiplied by gamma. The gamma is actually a normalization constant, that is UA is equal to 1, and UA lower indices given by gamma 1 minus 1 because of the Minkowskian nature. Then we immediately get that normalization constant give us gamma is 1 by 1 minus V square. So this is how you might have done your Lorentz transformation and related work. Now, in the case of light, it is usually written as U as 1 and vector k, and the k vector satisfies the condition that 1 minus k square is equal to 0. This is for the light-like curves, or the propagation of light is given by this equation. Now, in our new notation, we have seen that the UA with the 4 degree of freedom, which is given as t dot, x dot, y dot, and z dot, and then essentially written as each component as dt by ds, dx by ds, and dy by ds, and dz by ds. ds is the arc length parameter. Whole thing is such that it has normalized to 1. So let's pull out the dt by ds, and then we see that we get 1 into dx by ds, ds by dt. So we can cancel these, and we get a simple form that the 4 velocity is a dt by ds into 1 dx by dt, dy by dt, and dz by dt, and this is the spatial velocity. So this is how we make connection with our earlier notation. In connection with the old notation, we have a gamma as a dt by ds. It's actually the velocity of, it is the rate of change of time with respect to arc length. And then we have a spatial velocity, which is a standard dx by dt, dy by dt, and dz by dt. So this is how we can relate with the current geometric approach to what you have done earlier. And then you can relate all the derivation of Lorentz transformation and related activity with the new geometric formalism. Let me stop here, build on this with the more dynamics of special and general relativity in the coming lecture.